Exclusive contract from Feilu Novel Network Novel. Siheyuan. I'm on probation, what are you panicking about? Cheng Zhendong woke up to find himself an ordinary resident of a courtyard house. He was just framed and imprisoned by the Jia family and Qin Huairu. Fortunately, the prison.In system was awakened in a timely manner. On the first day of check.In, obtain master-level comprehensive combat skills. On the second day of check.In, gain first-level cooking experience. On the 100th day of check.In, obtain the drawings of the J.8 engine. On the 365th day of check.In, obtain the drawings of the automated stepper lithography machine. Cheng Zhendong used check.In rewards to stay in a single room and eat small stoves in prison. Due to significant meritorious service, the original sentence was reduced to 2 years. After being released from prison, the system will no longer distribute rewards. In order to return to prison, Cheng Zhendong reached out his black hand to the beasts in the courtyard. Is silly pillar the god of war in the courtyard? Defeat directly. Qin Huairu falsely accused me of playing hooliganism. Then let them see what real hooligans are. I finally returned to prison, but within 2 days, my sentence was reduced and I came out again. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 1. Prison Check-in System, Reduction of Sentence and Release from Prison. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. In the spring of 1955. After the snow, it cleared up and there was still a hint of coolness in the air. South Luogu Lane, Dongqing District, Sijiacheng. Slogans that showcase the vitality of the times can be seen everywhere. A young man with a slightly childish appearance, stepping on the snow on the roadside, slowly stopped in front of the gate of the Red Star courtyard. Looking at the familiar surroundings, memories begin to extend. The man's name is Cheng Zhendong. I just celebrated my 22nd birthday in prison. Thinking of his experiences over the years, Cheng Zhendong exhaled a breath of heat. The scattered gaze gradually focused and then became sinister. His family background was originally quite good. Born into a destitute family. My mother passed away early and lived with my father. Although his family is in decline, the skinny camel is bigger than the horse, and Cheng Zhendong lives much better than the others in the same courtyard. If it weren't for the accident 2 years ago. He should also be like other young people in this era, getting married and having children, and living each day cautiously. Just a peaceful life was completely chaotic after that woman appeared. 2 years ago, as soon as Cheng Zhendong reached adulthood, his family was busy recommending a marriage to him. The woman is the same age as him, not someone else, but Qin Huairu. Cheng Zhendong also does not resist. As a traveler, he knew that this woman was beautiful and cared for her family, and secondly, there were only the two of them at home, which was indeed a bit deserted. The Cheng family came from a wealthy family, and Cheng Zhendong was also born with a beautiful appearance. He was able to marry into the city, and Qin Huairu had no reason to refuse. Originally, everything came naturally. Just 2 days before obtaining the certificate, unexpected events occurred. The Cheng family was reported for maliciously raising prices, and the grain shop that had been in operation for many years was sealed. Old Cheng was worried about being liquidated, so he went to Xiangjiang with his remaining family. Leave only 300 yuan and a mess for Cheng Zhendong. An ordinary person who has experienced peaceful times and has never experienced any major storms suddenly has to struggle desperately for survival. The only advantage is knowing the development of the plot and being familiar with the context of this era. I thought the matter had come to an end by now. Who could have imagined that Qin Huairu, who had already made a marriage agreement with the Cheng family, would fall into trouble at such times? United with the Jia family to slander Cheng Zhendong for playing hooliganism. These former respected neighbors in the courtyard have also become stain witnesses. Cheng Zhendong was inexplicable and was imprisoned like this, sentenced to 5 years in prison. These days, productivity is poor, and people outside cannot eat enough, let alone these prisoners in prison. When asked about the impression of prison among these prisoners, the answer they get is definitely the same. That's not a place for people to stay. A dormitory can accommodate more than 10 people. The food is free. You can count the millet porridge with the naked eye. Mantu is also a kind of very small coarse-grained mantu, which is dry and hard. It's not bad in winter. In summer, the food has basically gone moldy and deteriorated. Fortunately, there is no such thing as a never-ending path. Cheng Zhendong accidentally unlocked the prison.In system after being imprisoned. On the first day of check.In, you will receive master-level comprehensive combat skills. Afterwards, I checked in every day, mostly for food supplies, and occasionally I could also obtain practical skills such as first-level cooking experience. There are also many advanced military, industrial, and agricultural technologies. Cheng Zhendong exchanged these advanced technologies obtained through check.In for his special treatment in prison. I ate a small stove and lived in a single room. The warden had to pass cigarettes when he saw him. Due to his significant meritorious service, Cheng Zhendong's sentence was reduced and he was eventually released from prison after less than 2 years. Although there is no freedom inside, there are people taking care of his daily life, and his food and accommodation are treated at the ministerial level. There is also a dedicated grade B chef responsible for his 3 meals a day. If there were not some grievances outside that needed to be dealt with, Cheng Zhendong really wouldn't want to come out so quickly. Are you, Zhendong? A familiar voice beside him interrupted his thoughts. Cheng Zhendong turned his head and found that the person who came was in his 40s or 50s, wearing glasses, was none other than Yan Bugue, the third elder in the courtyard. It depends on the situation that I just returned from school. Oh, it's really you. Didn't you get sentenced to 5 years? How did you come out? After saying these words, Yan Bugue regretted it. When Cheng Zhendong had an accident, the members of the hospital were divided into 2 camps. Either they followed suit and laid the stone, or they did not help each other and remained vigilant. It is well known that Cheng Zhendong was unjustly accused, but the Cheng family lost power and couldn't get any benefits for him. Not to mention, they would also offend the Jia family. Yan Bugue is skilled in calculation, so naturally he wouldn't do such a thankless task. Just now, Cheng Zhendong's early release from prison has made the neighborhood relationship in the courtyard, which is relatively balanced, instantly become more delicate. Why, I came out early, and Uncle San seems very disappointed. Cheng Zhendong stared at Yan Bugue with a smile on his face. Look at what you're saying, Zhendong, what happened back then? Before he could finish speaking, Cheng Zhendong choked and said, Uncle San, I've just been released from prison and my home hasn't entered yet. If you have nothing else to do, I'll go back first. Having gone through so many things, he is no longer the naive kid he used to be. This may sound unfriendly, but it chokes Yan Bugue hard to speak. Watching Cheng Zhendong walk away. It seemed that something had occurred to Yan Bugue, and his face changed. Quickly ran back home. Aunt San was also startled by his appearance. What's going on? What's going on in a hurry? Don't mention it, that kid from the Cheng family was released from prison early. Cheng's kid. Aunt San paused in her tone and then widened her eyes, do you mean Cheng Zhendong? Isn't that right? I have to go to the steel rolling mill. If Cheng Zhendong knew that Qin Huairu had married into the Jia family and even taken over his family, he would have caused some trouble. After speaking, I didn't even bother to drink saliva. Yan Bugue put down his briefcase and hurried to the Red Star steel rolling plant. Chapter 2. Jiu Zhan Que Nest, please come to your door. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. They live in a courtyard with 3 entrances. There are more than 10 households living in the front, middle, and back 3 courtyards. Cheng Zhendong lives in the backyard, opposite the deaf old lady. When there was no accident before, my family helped them a lot. Unexpectedly, the wall fell and everyone pushed. The one who received the most favor from the Cheng family was also the one who shouted the most fiercely after the incident. Cheng Zhendong was familiar with the road, passing through the hanging flower gate and the show corridor, and quickly arrived at the backyard. The surrounding layout has not changed much in the past 2 years. To the north is the main house, also known as the main house, where the deaf old lady lives. The door was open, and one could vaguely hear Aunt Yi's voice. Cheng Zhendong didn't stop much and looked straight at his own door. The next second, I saw a woman in her 20s, fair-skinned, and plump figure walking out of the room. 2 people with 4 eyes facing each other. The woman was stunned in place. Seeing the person's appearance clearly, their face suddenly changed, and their breathing became rapid. Cheng Zhendong grinned, never expecting that they would meet again in such a scene. Qin Huairu, I didn't expect you to be so nostalgic. Although you didn't marry the Cheng family, you changed your identity and moved into the Cheng family. This statement is not very smoky. Qin Huairu was a bit overwhelmed. That incident was indeed her fault, but it has been 2 years since then. At the beginning of the year, she just added a male servant to the Jia family. Jia Dongxiu is a second-level forging worker in a steel rolling mill. Although his life is tight, his family of 4 at least have no worries about food and clothing. As for why it appeared in the Cheng family. After giving birth to the meme, Jia Zhang found it too crowded for her family of 4 to live together, so she specifically sought help from Yi Zhonghai to go to the street to clear up the relationship. Allow them to temporarily move to the process house. He said he was temporarily staying, but he has already moved in, so how can he easily move out in the future? Over time, the ownership of the house becomes a real problem. After all, Qin Huairu felt somewhat guilty towards Cheng Zhendong for having done something wrong. Of course, there is still more concern about him tripping himself up. Qin Huairu is very satisfied with her current life and doesn't want any further trouble because of Cheng Zhendong. Thinking of this, the woman forced out a smiling face. Zhendong, haven't seen you for 2 years. You've suffered a lot inside, haven't you? Not bad, thanks to what you've given me, I haven't had much hardship inside. After speaking, Cheng Zhendong no longer paid attention to Qin Huairu. I entered the door on my own. Seemingly thinking of something, Qin Huairu's face changed and she quickly followed in. Take the lead and hold the sleeping child in your arms. Seeing Cheng Zhendong's gaze cast towards him, Qin Huairu dared not look him in the eye. This is my child with Dongxiu. Knowing that this was the white-eyed wolf stick meme, Cheng Zhendong sneered. Then, ignoring Qin Huairu's wary gaze, he began to scrutinize the surroundings. The house is cleaned very clean, and all the previous furniture has been replaced with new ones. He actually picked up a ready-made one. Alright, you can go out now. I need to rest now. Seeing that Cheng Zhendong was about to kick them out as soon as he returned, Qin Huairu became anxious. But now that Jia Dongxiu is not here, they are also the ones who are causing trouble. Thinking about this, Qin Huairu didn't say much and left the Cheng family with a stick in her hand. Seeing this woman walking so decisively, Cheng Zhendong glanced at her twice more. Qin Huairu is indeed a smart person, no wonder he can make silly Zhu so devoted to her. But I didn't think much about it either. There are no more idle people waiting at the moment. Cheng Zhendong clicked on the system and prepared for today's check.In. The next second, the system prompt sound ringing in his ear made him a bit dumbfounded. Ding, check.In failed. The host location has been detected to be outside the check.In range. Please check in again within the system's monitoring range. After being stunned for a while, Cheng Zhendong finally realized. Prison check.In system. You must be within the prison supervision area to sign in. Where can we make sense of this? But soon he calmed down. In the past 2 years, he has signed in many good things in prison, but it's not enough for him to do whatever he wants outside. At least until you have absolute self-protection capability, you cannot put the system aside. The rest of the problem is fine, the prison is really not something you can go to if you want. Feeling worried, there was suddenly a commotion outside. Where are people? Cheng Zhendong, come out here. If you're a man, don't be a shrinking turtle. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Cheng Zhendong raised his eyebrows. Then there was a fierce smile. He thought of a way back. A lot of people gathered outside the door. He is at the forefront. Although he is only 20 this year, he looks big and thick, with a fierce expression on his face at this moment. Qin Huairu held the stick and hid behind him, secretly wiping away her tears. Jiu Zhan also had a displeased expression on her face, shouting in the crowd for everyone to judge. However, everyone knows the ugly things their family has done, but no one is willing to speak openly. Did that kid from the Cheng family really come out? Didn't he say he was sentenced to 5 years? Why did he come back in less than 2 years? Who knows, but the Jia family is also bullying people too much. They have been harming people for 2 years in prison, not to mention, and even occupied someone else's house. Now that the people have returned, they are actually reporting the wrongdoer first. He, with the support of Mr. 1, who dares to speak for Cheng Zhendong in the courtyard. Isn't that right? I heard that this house was also related to Mr. Yi's visit to the street office. I don't think that kid from the Cheng family is a master who is willing to suffer losses. I really can't help him. He has no money or power, and now he has a case to settle. It's not easy to find a job in the future. How can he fight the Jia family? I advise you not to meddle in your own affairs and to cause trouble for yourself later. On-site discussions were heard everywhere. Most of it is a wait.and.see attitude. Only Silly Zhu was focused on finding a venue for Qin Huairu. The deaf old lady can't bear to watch anymore. This bastard has one mind. Why do you join in the fun of their family's troubles? Just as he was about to come forward and pull the person back, he saw the Cheng family gate creaking and being pushed open from inside. Chapter 3. The God of War in the courtyard has fallen. You are listening at novel full.audio. Oh, it's quite grand. Do you all know that I was released early and that you've brought me along? Upon hearing these words, the discussion at the scene came to a sudden halt. The deaf old lady frowned. Seeing a smile on his lips, a hint of unease suddenly appeared in his heart. Silly Zhu didn't think so much. Cheng Zhendong's current expression, in his eyes, was clearly provocative. Cheng Zhendong, I said you're an old man. Why can't you always get along with Qin Jie? That child is only 6 months old, do you really want to bully their mother? Upon hearing these words, Cheng Zhendong glanced at Qin Huairu, who was crying beside him, and said innocently. I just invited them out of my house, can this also be called bullying? Besides, this has nothing to do with you, right? Or should I say that the child is you and Qin Huairu? Cheng Zhendong's expression was somewhat meaningful. Everyone in the courtyard knows how silly Column thinks about Qin Huairu. Although it is clear that nothing has happened between them, this relationship has been exposed to the light, and it is inevitable to be laughed at by others. You fart. Before Silly Zhu could express his opinion, Jiu Zhan became anxious first. A dog's mouth can't spit out ivory, otherwise it would be said that your Qing family is all bad guys. They keep their eyes open and tell lies in broad daylight. They are innocent, and you are not afraid of going bankrupt. Besides, we have been living in this house for so long, why do you say this house belongs to you? Qin Huairu looked wronged, and the stick in her arms was deliberately awakened by her. The two women were crying and crying, but they earned enough sympathy from others. After shouting, Jiu Zhan turned her head to look at Silly Zhu and added angrily, it's okay for us to suffer a bit. Silly Zhu, you don't have a partner yet. If any rumors spread, how will others see you? This little brat clearly doesn't want you to be okay. He is not really foolish. Knowing that Jiu Zhan is trying to divert trouble from the east. The words are rough and the principles are not rough. With so many people watching, if he didn't show any signs, it would really make others laugh. Just about to step forward, but was stopped by a deaf old lady. "Madam, why are you dragging me? This grandson caused trouble when he just came back. If we don't teach him a lesson, we won't be able to live a peaceful life in the courtyard." The deaf old lady said with a stern face, "It's not your turn to stand out. Hey, the old lady is still reasonable, and it's not your son." Jia Dongshu didn't even speak. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Cheng Zhendong's words are neither painful nor itchy, it's just that they sound awkward. Jia Zhang was not angry at all, his eyes were wide open, and his face looked somewhat grim. "Everyone, listen to me. What's wrong with this little bastard? He's a beast with a mother but no mother to teach him." Pop. With a crisp sound, the entire backyard fell silent. Cheng Zhendong frowned and shook his right hand. Muttering incessantly, "Good guy, your skin is thicker than the walls of a prison." Upon hearing these words, the onlookers felt a chill. Jia Zhang lay prostrate on the ground on her side. There was a buzzing sound in my ears, my brain crashed, and everything was blank. 2 rear teeth scattered on the ground, blood stains on the mouth, and a bright red handprint on the right face were shocking. Aunt Air and Aunt San, who were watching the excitement, couldn't help but shiver. Just looking at it like this, you can feel a burning pain on your face. Qin Huairu was also shocked by Cheng Zhendong's sudden action and forgot what she was here for. Even the deaf old lady who was used to the big scene didn't expect him to come out like this. The wrinkles on the face seemed to have deepened a bit. In my impression, Cheng Zhendong was quiet and always had no conflict with others. I just stayed inside for 2 years, and the means of revenge would be so simple and crude. After taking this breath and feeling the piercing pain on her face, Jia Zhang lay on the ground, crying and starting to splash. "You bastard, dare you hit me? Dongshu, why haven't you come back yet? Bullying our man is not here, and there is no justice left. We can't live these days anymore." These residents in the courtyard had no intention of getting involved in this matter. Now that Cheng Zhendong has this attitude again, he is even more unwilling to take personal risks. However, there were still people rushing to report to the police. For a moment, only the cries of Jia and Zhang were heard in the courtyard. This howl actually woke up silly Zhu. Seeing Cheng Zhendong daring to commit violence in front of him, the god of war in the courtyard couldn't bear it anymore. "You, Cheng Zhendong, are so shameless. I didn't intend to argue like you, but I didn't expect your grandson to be so ruthless towards an old lady in her 50s. If I don't deal with you today, your grandson really won't have a long memory." After silly Zhu finished speaking, he broke free from the shackles of the deaf old lady and swung his fist towards Cheng Zhendong's door. Seeing someone standing up for him, Jia Zhang forgot to shout for a moment, just the expected scene did not appear. Silly Zhu punched him empty, and his right hand was held back by Cheng Zhendong. Like being clamped by an iron block, silly Zhu wanted to struggle but couldn't move. His physique is larger than that of his neighbors, and he is accustomed to bullying in the courtyard due to the support of a deaf elderly woman. "Where have you ever eaten this kind of shrimps?" As soon as I thought of Qin Huairu watching from the side, I felt a little embarrassed and angry. "Son thief, how dare you fight back? If you have the ability, you can take off my arm and give it a try. Today, either you can kill me or give Qin Jia room to kneel and apologize, otherwise your grandfather and I will have no end with you. I have never heard such excessive demands in my 2 lifetimes. Cheng Zhendong will no longer hold back." With a click, silly Zhu felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. My whole arm was hanging down in front of everyone. Before everyone could react to what had happened, they saw Cheng Zhendong kick silly Zhu to the ground on one knee. "Lift the bench in the courtyard with your back hand." Then, amidst the frightened gazes of everyone, he swung straight towards the silly pillar. Everything happened between lightning and flint. There's no time to react. Silly pillar fell to the ground with only a passive chance of being beaten. Cheng Zhendong remained expressionless and showed no intention of stopping. Each blow is powerful and heavy. The bench was whizzed by him. Looking at the scene before us, the scene suddenly became chaotic. The crying of children, the screams of women, and the wailing of silly pillars mixed together. The people of Jia and Zhang are all foolish. Every time silly Zhu shouted, her body couldn't help but tremble. Qin Huairu is really afraid of Cheng Zhendong now. After staying in prison for 2 years, I didn't expect such a significant change in temperament. I couldn't have imagined that Cheng Zhendong would dare to commit violence in front of so many people. Chapter 4. Historical Repetition. Ultimately, it will be the foolish pillar who bears the burden. You are listening at novel full.audio. Watching the movements of the silly pillar getting smaller and smaller. No one else dares to come forward and help. The old lady is in a hurry. Stop it, little beast. If there's anything wrong with the pillar, I won't finish it with you. Upon hearing this, Cheng Zhendong finally stopped his hand movements. Glancing at the old lady with sunken eye sockets and a fierce gaze beside her. Without saying a word, he swung the bench and slammed it heavily into the head of silly pillar amidst the trembling gazes of the crowd. The latter lay motionless on the ground. The blood stains on his face looked unusually grim. The bench snapped in two in response. The originally bustling backyard quieted down again. The deaf old lady saw this and covered her chest, feeling dizzy with anger. She treats silly Zhu like her own grandson. On weekdays, it is also extremely protective. In this courtyard, it has always been foolish to bully others. When have you ever been bullied like this? Get out of here, what are you all doing here? Cheng Zhendong, you. Hiss, there was a sudden commotion in the crowd. Mr. Ayer's bangs were the first to emerge, but as he watched the scene before him, he couldn't help but take a deep breath. A body full of fat also instinctively trembled. Yi Zhonghai, Yan Bugue, and Jia Dongxiu followed closely behind. After seeing the foolish pillar lying on the ground without anyone knowing, he was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Half of the bench is still being held in Cheng Zhendong's hand. Although I did not witness the brutal battle just now, I am also aware that the current situation was caused by him alone. Yan Bugue guessed that Cheng Zhendong would have a bad time with the Jia family when he returned. But he never dreamed that if he were just shouting his own kung fu, there would be such a big conflict on both sides. Look at the miserable situation of silly Zhu and Jia Zhang. Cheng Zhendong has taken a desperate action. Dongxiu, how did you come back? I'm going to be beaten to death. Seeing the arrival of the main pillar, Jia Zhang sat on the ground and screamed again. Jia Dongxiu felt a bit guilty. I dare not speak up even if someone beats me. Cheng Zhendong is probably crazy. Even silly Zhu didn't get any benefits from him, and the others were even more useless. In this situation, Cheng Zhendong is likely to have to go back to prison again. All three masters are here, and he doesn't need to make such a fuss. Yi Zhonghai looked at the mess on the ground and his face turned very black. He is the first master in the courtyard, and if such a big thing happens, he naturally cannot ignore it. Cheng Zhendong, did you do all this? I did it. Everyone heard me just now. It was silly Zhu who asked me to kill him and live in the same courtyard. I can't be so indifferent, can I? But don't worry, Grandpa Yi, he just took off his arm and took half of his life. He's not a big deal. Cheng Zhendong still understands the principle that too much is better than too little. Those few moves just now avoided the key points. After all, if it really causes trouble, the initiative is no longer in his hands. Upon hearing these words, Jia Dongxiu's eyelids twitched. Hiding behind others, I dare not speak up. Yi Zhonghai's lack of energy is clearly making fun of him. I saw in your eyes that there's really no way to do such a big thing right after coming out. Don't do this. Cheng Zhendong was too lazy to continue arguing with Yi Zhonghai. Half of the bench on his hand was casually thrown onto the ground, and he spoke out loud. You deserve to propose the king's law in front of me. You are the least important person in this courtyard. Don't pretend in front of me, sooner or later we'll clean up together. You. Yi Zhonghai's face turned red and he was choked by Cheng Zhendong for a moment, unable to speak. Although I don't believe Cheng Zhendong really dares to do anything to him. But seeing the miserable situation of Silly Pillar, he didn't want to take risks with himself. Unfortunately, some people cannot see the situation clearly. Jia Zhang covered half of her face and wailed, Grandpa Yi, you have to make the decision for us. Yi Zhonghai glared at her in anger. You always think of others cleaning up the mess when you cause trouble. I don't know how to end this situation right now. In the midst of difficulties, the public security finally arrived. The residents voluntarily gave way to a path. I heard someone is causing trouble, which of you? Before finishing their sentence, both police officers were stunned when they saw the scene in front of them. Then his expression became unusually serious. Who did this? People in this era generally have great respect for such public officials. Seeing the person who could make up her own mind come, Jia Zhang quickly cried with a runny nose and tears. Comrades of the Public Security Bureau, you can count it. No matter how late it is, we will really cause trouble. Look at me, I was all beaten up by this little bastard Cheng Zhendong. You must make up your own mind for me. If it's just a common neighborhood conflict, just a few criticisms can solve it. But at present, the nature of this situation has completely changed. Both of them dare not neglect. First, I went forward to check on Silly Zhu's injuries and breathed a sigh of relief when I saw that he was still alive. Then he looked at Cheng Zhendong with a wary expression and drank, Did you do all this? I have seen many thugs since I was a police officer for so many years. But it's really the first time I've encountered someone as ruthless as Cheng Zhendong. I did it. Seeing Cheng Zhendong's indifferent attitude, Jia Zhangshi resentfully said, What do you think of his attitude? The fact is already very clear, and the two police officers are not in the ink either. Who is in charge of the courtyard? Upon hearing this, Yi Zhonghai quickly stood up. I am the first master in the courtyard. Please cooperate with our work. First, ask a few people to take the injured to the hospital. Before the investigation results come out, be sure to protect the scene. In addition, the parties involved will come back with us to make a record. Everyone was in a flurry. The deaf old lady was sent home, and the Silly Pillar was also carried to the hospital. There are many onlookers on the road. Jia Zhang endured the pain and said that he would follow the police station to expose the crimes committed by Cheng Zhendong. Seeing all the parties involved leave, the residents in the courtyard breathed a sigh of relief. What kind of thing is this? The Cheng family is really ruthless. When has the Jia family suffered such a big loss? That's all they deserve, and so is Silly Zhu. The grudges between the Jia family and Cheng Zhendong, what's going on with him? Now that he's better, he's not even alive. If I were Cheng Zhendong, I wouldn't be able to bear it either. I spent 2 years in prison without any reason, and my home was occupied. Grandma Zhang was slapped unfairly. I'm still impulsive. Jieqi is jieqi. The problem person's police station doesn't care why you hit someone. You just got out and had to go in, so you're still young. P.S. New book set sale, kneeling down for flower evaluation tickets. Chapter 5. Cheng Zhendong's confidence, this is not bullying. You are listening at novel full.audio. Dongqing District by Xinkyo Police Station. After Jia Zhang and his group arrived, the originally relatively clean territory suddenly became noisy. Fighting is not a small matter these days. Not to mention the serious injuries of the victim, who is in the hospital and has not yet escaped danger. Jia Zhang kept moaning and moving, and soon attracted the leaders of the office. A middle-aged man in his 50s, with a Chinese face and a burly figure, frowned and walked over. Why is it so noisy? What's going on? Director, we have just received a report from the public stating that a person from Nanluoga Lane was involved in a violent assault during the daytime. This is the person involved, and another seriously injured patient has been taken to the hospital. The perpetrator is currently under investigation in the interrogation room. The man looked stern and said, "Is there such a thing? After all, 49 cities are the capital. There are few malignant cases occurring in urban areas. Judging from the injuries in front of me, it's no longer an ordinary fight." Seeing the leader in the office coming, Jiu Zhan quickly raised her voice, crying out one's experiences with a runny nose and tears. "Leader, you must make the decision for us. Cheng Zhendong is simply not human. Even an old lady like me can put such a heavy hand on him. My old man left early, and my grandson is only 6 months old. This little beast wanted my life as soon as he came out of prison. Do you think he still has a way to deal with it?" The onlookers were unclear about the whole story. Just listening to Jiu Zhang's words, the culprit is truly unforgivable. However, after hearing these words, Shenfujuan froze in place. "Who are you talking about? Cheng Zhendong? Which Cheng Zhendong?" Seeing the leader suddenly lose his composure, the police officer beside him whispered a reminder, "Director, his home is at 95, South Luogu Lane, Red Star Courtyard. Nan Luogu Xiang. That's right, it's really him. Wait a moment." Seemingly thinking of something, Shenfujuan's expression became somewhat solemn. Turning his head to the police officer beside him, he asked, "Did Cheng Zhendong take the initiative to injure him?" "This." The police officers noticed that Shenfujuan's face seemed to be somewhat off color. "I seem to know that Cheng Zhendong. I dare not easily classify this case at present." Zhonghai also noticed the anomaly. Although it is unclear why the director of this police station had such a big reaction upon hearing Cheng Zhendong's name, it is clearly not good news for them. He is a serious and department-level leader. His identity as an 8th-level technical worker is not worth mentioning in the police station. However, this matter cannot just be vague. Zhonghai snatched up the conversation, "Comrade Director, I am the first uncle in the courtyard. When Cheng Zhendong committed the crime, everyone in the courtyard was present. Our foolish pillar in the courtyard was beaten to death by him, and we don't know whether he is alive or dead now. If you let this kind of person go, it will really cause trouble in the future, and the problem will be huge." Shenfujuan sensed a warning from this statement. As for why he is so sensitive to Cheng Zhendong's name, we have to start with a case that was personally entrusted to him by the department leaders to re-investigate a while ago. Shenfujuan also learned some stories related to Cheng Zhendong from this leader. Although I don't know much about it, I am also aware of its importance. Moreover, the superiors repeatedly instructed them to protect the safety of Cheng Zhendong. As soon as the person was released from prison, they started a big fight. He didn't believe it if there were no tricks involved. Moreover, even the director of the police station, Cheng Zhendong, has no authority to hear the case involving him. Thinking of this, Shenfujuan coldly glanced at Zhonghai. "Don't worry, we won't cover up any criminals, nor will we wrongly accuse any good people. The agency will investigate this matter thoroughly. Shaoli, take them to take a statement first," he said in a deep voice. After speaking, Shenfujuan didn't bother and went straight to the interrogation room. Watching him leave, Zhonghai suddenly felt a hint of unease in his heart. Jiu Zhan was completely unaware of the seriousness of the problem. Still constantly criticizing Cheng Zhendong's crimes. On the other side, the interrogation of Cheng Zhendong has come to an end. The reason why Cheng Zhendong made such a harsh move is to be able to return to prison. I naturally confess to the crimes I have committed. However, in the eyes of the interrogating police officers, Cheng Zhendong's attitude of admitting guilt is indescribable, just without any remorse. Just as he was about to reprimand, the door to the interrogation room suddenly opened. Seeing that Qin Huairu was coming, 2 police officers quickly welcomed him. Director. So, have you found anything? What are the secrets of this case? Hidden information. The 2 looked at each other, not understanding the meaning of Qin Huairu's words. Alright, you guys go out first, I'll review later. Yes. Waiting for idle people to leave, Qin Huairu quickly changed his smiling face. Professor Cheng, the people in the office are not sensible and have made you feel wronged. How about that? Are you not injured? Upon hearing this title, Cheng Zhendong felt somewhat helpless. Knowing this person should have some insider knowledge. Communication is much more convenient. Just call me Cheng Zhendong, I don't know how you call me. My surname is Shen and I am currently serving as the director of the Baixinkyo police station. Previously, Minister Li wrote a letter asking me to re-investigate the case that was related to you 2 years ago. Unexpectedly, before the investigation began, this incident occurred. It was our negligence in taking care of it. Qin Huairu's idea is very simple. It is unreasonable for someone so valued in the department to take such a heavy hand for no reason. Most likely due to being pressured. Now that the situation is so big, it's not easy for him to keep up with the higher-ups. Professor Cheng, I know there must be some hidden truth behind this matter. I have also read the case file from 2 years ago, and the testimony of the witnesses is also insidious. If you have any grievances, just let me know and I will do justice for you. Cheng Zhendong didn't say anything else. Is there any smoke? Upon hearing this, Qin Huairu quickly took out a package of front doors from his pants pocket. Then light the cigarette for Cheng Zhendong. The case 2 years ago, I told Minister Li in prison before that they had set up a bureau for me, so I just dug in and there was no need to try to overturn the case. It's not that Cheng Zhendong didn't want it, it's mainly because the person involved insisted that he played a hooligan. At that time, he did not formally confirm his relationship with Qin Huairu in that environment. Unless this woman changes her mind, this case cannot be overturned. Cheng Zhendong exhaled a mouthful of thick smoke and continued, besides, I did take a heavy hit in today's conflict. You don't need to cover up. Follow normal legal procedures, and you should be guilty of whatever you want. Don't put any pressure on me because of my identity. After explaining, Cheng Zhendong didn't say anything more. Qin Huairu had a gloomy expression on his face. Such an honest and upright person can be forced into this by them. Think with your heels and know how much injustice there is inside. Cheng Zhendong didn't want to make them difficult, but Qin Huairu was determined to investigate the matter thoroughly. Otherwise, if asked by superiors, the director of the local police station in his jurisdiction cannot bear this responsibility. P.S. The new book set sail, kneeling down for flowers to reward and evaluate. If there are any, add more. Chapter 6. Liquidation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Qin Huairu came out of the interrogation room with a grim face, the 2 police officers waiting outside quickly leaned in. Director, the confession has been recorded and I see that this case is very clear. Can we put the person in prison? Qin Huairu was already depressed in his heart, and upon hearing this, he angrily rebuked. Have you investigated yet? Just say this case is clear. You must have good food and drink to support this person inside. What do you do to your mother at home, and what do you do to him here? Also, Xiao Lu, take 2 people to the courtyard where the incident occurred, ask the residents about the whole story, and tell them that the nature of this case has changed. If you don't report the situation, you will be punished for the same crime. I haven't seen Qin Huairu get so angry yet. The 2 naturally dared not neglect, nor did they bother to think about the relationship between the person inside and the director. Quickly gathered people and went to Nanluoga Lane. In less than an hour, he approached Qin Huairu with the investigation results. Director, we have investigated and found out that there is indeed a hidden truth in this case. Speak clearly. This matter has to start from 2 years ago. Then, the police officer explained everything he learned from his household registration. From the marriage between Cheng Zhendong and Qin Huairu, to the Jia family's alliance with Yi Zhonghai to seize the Qing family's property. Another thing is today's farce. The residents of the quadrangle courtyard originally only wanted to protect themselves wisely and did not want to cause much trouble. But it is said that if one does not report the same crime, they will naturally no longer shield the Jia family. A group of bastards whose conscience has been eaten by dogs. Shen Fujian slammed the table with anger, his eyes wide open. The instantly emanating aura frightened the 2 police officers on the side, causing their eyelids to tremble uncontrollably. They haven't seen the director get so angry before. How dare they? How dare you say they dare? Even if someone is innocent and occupies their property, they dare to complain in front of me. Thinking of Jia Zhang's face just now, Shen Fujian felt a pang of nausea. I have lived for most of my life and have never seen such a shameless person. No wonder Cheng Zhendong would lay such a heavy hand. Don't even talk about the parties involved, anyone who has some sympathy wouldn't let them bully people like this. Director, please calm down first. What do you think we should do with this case? The 2 police officers were indecisive. Although there was a confession from the resident, the previous case has been ongoing for 2 years, making it difficult to overturn it. In addition, although Cheng Zhendong's assault is understandable, the problem is too heavy. They took the time to go to the hospital to inquire about the situation. Although Heyuju's injury is not fatal, it is difficult to guarantee that he will not fall into any disability. Definitely enough for serious injury standards. One size fits all, even if there is intentional protection, it may be difficult to block the crowd. Shen Fujian naturally understood. But since he already knows the truth of the matter, he must not ignore it. Thinking of this, Shen Fujian gradually calmed down, but his face remained gloomy. They must be made aware of the pain, otherwise they will not know what heinous things they will do in the future. You just said that it was the one named Heyuju who initiated the trouble, right? That's right, and it was his hand that moved first. That's no problem. This case can be classified as a physical altercation. Heyuju and Jia Zhangshi, as the active troublemakers, bear the main responsibility for this case. Cheng Zhendong's excessive defense and accidental injury are secondary responsibilities. Upon hearing this, the police officers present looked at each other. The tendency is also too obvious. But no one dares to talk too much at such times. Shen Fujian added, also, let the Jia family vacate the Qing family's house within a specified period of time. Who gives them the right to seize someone else's property? Director, we have checked and it was Lu Yang, the director of the Nanluo Guxiang Street office, who nodded and stamped the seal. Humph, I knew that if there were a few more such worms in our team, there would be no credibility left. We must deal with them strictly and immediately send someone to arrest Lu Yang. Shen Fujian acted with lightning speed and determination. Everything you say carries a sense of solemnity. This is no longer just venting on Cheng Zhendong. He, as the director of the police station, is equally guilty of such wrongful and erroneous cases in the jurisdiction. If not handled properly, this person may not be able to sit steadily. The sky is getting dark. Nightfall quickly enveloped the entire city of Kyoto. It's just that Nanluoga Lane has lost its former tranquility. The Red Star courtyard was completely silent. Su Damao returned from playing a movie in the countryside, and as soon as he entered the cinema, he noticed that the atmosphere was not right. Usually at this point, the 3 masters have their doors open, but today they are all tightly closed, as if guarding against something. Knowing that something must have happened in the courtyard, Su Damao hurried home. Dad, is there something wrong in the courtyard? Su Jinghua and his wife were preparing dinner when they saw their son returning and quickly warned him. Damao, when you see Cheng Zhendong in the future, don't take a detour. Cheng Zhendong. Upon hearing this name, Su Damao was taken aback. Quickly thought of the source. Isn't Cheng Zhendong serving his sentence in prison? What does this matter have to do with him? Don't mention it. This kid came out early and kicked Qin Huairu and her son out of his house as soon as he came back. Silly Zhu wanted to stand up, but Cheng Zhendong took half of his life, and Jiu Zhan didn't get any benefits from him. He even had 2 teeth knocked off. It's not over yet. I just heard that Director Liu of the street office was also taken away by the police station. Su Jinghua picked the most important news he knew and told Su Damao once. After speaking, even he himself felt a bit dazed. As soon as Cheng Zhendong returned, the entire Nanluogu alley was turned upside down. Su Damao was dumbfounded. When I went to the countryside to watch a movie myself, I actually missed so many good scenes. Hey, I deserve it. I've been wanting to clean up the silly pillar for a long time, but I didn't expect to be snatched first by this kid Cheng Zhendong. Su Damao was not present at the scene, thinking that silly Zhu had just been briefly beaten up. Due to the grudges between their parents, the conflict between the two families has always been deep. Su Damao was also bullied by the silly pillar. Now that I heard he was eating flat, I couldn't help but gloat. Alright, just a few words. Anyway, when I see Cheng Zhendong in the future, as far as I can hide, this person is just a lunatic. Come on, Cheng Zhendong just came out and committed another crime. The crime is even worse. I guess he will be sentenced to death in prison. Are you so afraid of him? Although Su Damao's words are reasonable, the shadow that Cheng Zhendong brought to Su Jinghua this afternoon is too great. Be careful when sailing a ship for thousands of years, it's always right to be cautious. Moreover, Director Liu of the street office was suddenly arrested. The public just came and asked Jia Dongxiu to vacate the Qing family's house tonight. This is quite strange, and I always feel that the police station seems to have intentions towards Cheng Zhendong. Not only Su Jinghua is aware of this. Even discerning people can tell some clues. Just at the moment, no one knows which link has gone wrong, and everyone remains silent. P.S. New book set sale, kneeling down for support. Chapter 7. Announcement of Judgment Results. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Those who have done something wrong are all sitting restless at this moment. Due to the intervention of the police station, Jia Dongxiu and Qin Huairu were forced to move back to the Jia family. Jia Zhang's mouth naturally complained incessantly. After cursing Cheng Zhendong, he still couldn't help but feel angry, and the leaders of the police station couldn't escape. Qin Huairu couldn't even listen anymore. Mom, it's a special period now. Just say a few words less. If these words spread, they will cause unnecessary trouble. It's okay if you don't say this, as soon as you mention that Jia Zhang's resentment is directed towards Qin Huairu. You still have the face to say, if it weren't for your unclear relationship with that little bastard Cheng Zhendong, would I be able to suffer this kind of injustice today? I tell you, after marrying into my Jia family, you were born a member of my Jia family and died a ghost of my Jia family. Cheng Zhendong, you can't expect anything in your life. Jia Zhan was in a fit of anger and didn't leave any face for Qin Huairu. The most important thing for women these days is their reputation. Jia Dongxiu remained calm on the side, ignoring their arguments. Qin Huairu has done a lot of bad deeds for the Jia family. It's hard to imagine that Jia Zhang and her son didn't even consider her their own family. Despite the immense grievances in my heart, I can only hold on to the stick and secretly wipe away my tears, shattering my teeth and swallowing them into my stomach. Jia Dongxiu was already upset, and when Qin Huairu cried, she couldn't help but feel angry. Alright, I'm not dead yet. What do I look like crying and crying? Jia Zhang is too lazy to continue criticizing Qin Huairu. She is now only concerned about the ownership of the Qing family's property. Dongxiu, what do you mean by the police station? Can we still live in the Qing family's house? It's hard to say, it's probably something Cheng Zhendong said at the police station. Today's incident was too sudden, and we didn't have time to manage it, which allowed Cheng Zhendong to take advantage of it. However, we didn't expect even Director Lu to fall through. Thinking of Lu Yang's fate, Jia Dongxiu felt a hint of unease in his heart. As if comforting himself, he immediately added, but Cheng Zhendong's fierce behavior in the daytime is real. With so many people watching, silly Zhu is still lying in the hospital. Even if the police station wants to protect him, there is no way. He just came out and committed another crime. This sentence is probably not short. The house is idle, and sooner or later it will be ours. Jia Zhangshi touched his swollen right face and said with resentment, it would be cheap if he didn't get shot. Every family has its own difficult scriptures to recite. Tonight is destined to be someone's sleepless night. 2 days later. The foolish pillar who was treated in the hospital finally woke up. Rainwater and Aunt E are taking care of the side. The former's eyes are red and swollen, obviously shedding tears. Since He Da-Ching left their siblings, He Rainwater has only been left with the family member Silly Zhu. My dear brother was beaten up like this, so naturally he was both shocked and resentful. Silly Zhu was covered in bandages all over his body. The right arm is still in plaster. One can roughly tell a person's appearance by having bruises and purples on their face. Just as he opened his eyes and saw the rain, Silly Zhu wanted to move his body. The next second of intense pain instantly spreads throughout the body. I almost fainted from the pain again. Brother, you're awake. Don't move yet, you're wrapped in a bandage. Rainwater's words carry a crying tone. As he spoke, he couldn't help but scold angrily, is Cheng Zhendong still human? How could he lay such a heavy hand? Upon hearing this person's name, Silly Zhu finally regained his excitement. He has had many nightmares these past few days, either being beaten up by Cheng Zhendong or on the way to being beaten up by him. The beating the day before yesterday did indeed cast a psychological shadow on Silly Zhu. Auntie comforted and said, don't worry, silly pillar. Cheng Zhendong has already been arrested by the police, and the results should be announced in the next few days. They will definitely uphold justice for you. There is no complete criminal procedure law in the country these days. Generally, the trial is conducted by the public security and then submitted to the county-level unit for approval before sentencing. The charges are diverse. The process can naturally be simplified. Of course, some special cases also need to be reviewed by higher-level leaders before making a decision. As soon as Andy finished speaking, 2 uniformed police officers entered the ward. When it comes to Cheng Zhendong, Shen Fujian dare not neglect. After investigating the entire case, he immediately provided his own punishment suggestions and submitted them for approval. The results are also out today. He Yuzhu woke up. That's just right. The case has already been investigated thoroughly by the department. We're here today to inform you of the punishment result. Upon hearing this, Silly Zhu suddenly came to his senses. I even have the strength to speak. Public security comrades, how many years did Cheng Zhendong get sentenced for killing him that day? I was beaten like this, you can't spare him lightly. 2 police officers coldly glanced at him upon hearing the words, and one of them said, after investigation, the brawl between the parties He Yuzhu and Cheng Zhendong is true, and the social impact is bad. As the conflict between the two was initiated by He Yuzhu, he took the main responsibility for the conflict. Cheng Zhendong passively resisted and accidentally injured people, assuming the secondary responsibility for the conflict. Considering that He Yuzhu was seriously injured and did not cause actual harm to the victim Cheng Zhendong, this judgment is as follows. He Yuzhu was sentenced to 1 month's imprisonment with a 1-month probation, and Cheng Zhendong was sentenced to 3 months imprisonment with immediate execution. After listening to the verdict, He Rainwater and Aunt E are foolish. Silly Zhu's eyes darkened and he fainted again. Even in his dreams, he could never have imagined that being beaten to such virtue would actually be the one causing harm. There is no compensation, not to mention an additional month sentence. At this moment, silly Zhu seemed to feel the overwhelming malice of the world towards him. Rainwater is only 13 years old this year, and he won't be able to digest so much content for a while. Auntie thought she had heard wrong and didn't care about going up to see the situation with the silly pillar. Comrade Public Security, did you make a mistake? He Yuzhu has been beaten up like this, how could he still be sentenced? He asked repeatedly. I'm not mistaken. In this case, whoever is seriously injured is not justified. The judgment is issued by the county committee. If you have any objections, you can appeal to the county committee. After speaking, the two of them left the ward. Chapter 8. Improved J.9 Fighter Blueprint. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. The verdict quickly spread throughout Nanluoga Lane. Cheng Zhendong was only sentenced for 3 months without saying anything. The victim also became the perpetrator. Silly Zhu also faces a month's imprisonment, which is absurd not only for him as a party involved, but also for other residents in the courtyard. The already dull atmosphere became even more subtle. The deaf old lady almost fainted after learning the verdict. It took a long time to recover. Zhonghai comforted and said, Madam, please be relieved. I will go to the county committee later. This matter may not be certain yet. That's what he said, but Zhonghai also has no confidence in his heart. The verdict was made by the county committee, so there must be some insider information behind such obvious favoritism. Thinking of the fate of the street office director. The verdict on silly Zhu this time is likely due to the Jia family's encroachment on Cheng Zhendong's property. After all, it's still their fault. The deaf old lady is so focused on her drooping grandson that she can't let him suffer such a loss. Although lying in bed with little strength, he couldn't help but complain, I told you earlier not to get involved in the Jia family's troubles. You're better off helping them take over the Cheng family's house. Now that the retribution falls on the foolish pillar, how can you handle it? Zhonghai is helpless. 2 years ago, the Cheng family had an accident, and the Jia, He, and Su families were all plotting against Qin Huairu. The deaf old lady urged Zhonghai to use a trap for Cheng Zhendong in order to be foolish. As a result, he ended up in 5 years of imprisonment. In the end, Qin Huairu still married into the Jia family. Zhonghai caused a lot of trouble for himself, and even fell into their hands. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped the Jia family seize the property of the Cheng family. Now that the East Window incident has occurred, the old lady has cleaned up the situation, but it is he who is the first master, both inside and outside, who is no longer a good person. Zhonghai felt depressed and unwilling to talk too much to the deaf old lady. Make an excuse and leave. They both lost their balance due to the incident involving Cheng Zhendong. The top priority now is to find a way to have the county committee revise the verdict. Everything else is easy to say, silly pillar must not enter. Even if it's just 1 month imprisonment, it's still a stain. No one helps to speak, most likely he will be fired from the factory. Losing this iron rice bowl will have little to do with the future of silly Zhu, which will have a significant impact on his retirement. Zhonghai dare not neglect. After coming out of the old lady's house, she hurriedly searched for someone. On this side, Zhonghai and the deaf old lady became anxious about the silly pillar, but on the other side, Su Damao was so happy that he almost set off a firefight to celebrate after receiving the news. Hey, I deserve it. If you ask me to say that this villain has his own villainous grind, I'll see who dares to mess with me in this courtyard in the future. Su Jinghua took a sip of hot tea and thought about the verdict, but still felt something was wrong. In special times, it's better to be cautious. After a while, we will vacate the house for you. Don't worry about the affairs in the courtyard, go to the Lu family more often when you have time, and marry Lu Xiaoyi back home. It's more important than anything else. Don't worry, my relationship with Mozi is good now. Although Lu Xiaoya has not yet expressed her opinion, her father and mother have already intentionally married their daughter into the Su family. These days, it is said that love freedom is advocated, but as long as Lu Xiaoa does not particularly resist the matchmaker's orders from her parents, this marriage is already considered a certainty. Compared to the foolish pillar who is deeply mired in the quagmire, Su Damao is now feeling proud. On the other side, after the verdict was passed, Cheng Zhendong was also transferred back to Gongdalan prison in Dishengmen. I heard that I was only sentenced to 3 months in prison. Cheng Zhendong was somewhat disappointed. It would take at least 3 years to start with a different person. If the upper level is determined to protect, he has no choice. We can only think of other ways in the future. Looking at the gradually approaching high courtyard wall, others may feel oppressed, but Cheng Zhendong has a hint of warmth. An inexplicable feeling of returning home arose. Prison warden Zhao Liren and other officials were waiting outside the prison gate. As soon as the special car for escorting Cheng Zhendong arrived, Zhao Liren immediately welcomed him. Lao Zhao, I didn't expect us to meet again so soon. Seeing an old acquaintance, Cheng Zhendong smiled and said hello. Zhao Liren had already known the whole story beforehand. Apart from helplessness, there are no other emotions left. Zhendong, you're too impulsive. If you have any grievances, you can talk to Minister Li. If it's really not possible, you can talk to me. Are you still afraid that we won't be fair to you? A prison staff member behind him smiled and said, who is young and hasn't done a few impulsive things. Professor Xiaocheng, you've been tired all the way. We've prepared food and drinks for you, and we'll go in and chat while we eat. The police officer in charge of escorting looked at each other when they heard this. Xindao, is this person really here to go to jail? Just as he entered the prison area, Cheng Zhendong received a system prompt. Ding, it has been detected that the host is within the system's check.In range. Do you want to sign in immediately? Cheng Zhendong didn't hesitate and silently said to himself, sign in. Ding, congratulations to the host for successfully signing in and obtaining the improved version of the J.9 fighter development drawings. J.9. Cheng Zhendong was taken aback. Although he is not a serious military enthusiast, he also has knowledge of the development history of fighter jets in China. The J.9 has also been invested in research and development, but due to certain technical reasons, it has not been successfully developed. Finally, I was forced to give up. The J.9 blueprint signed in this time is obviously a system improvement. Zhendong, why aren't you leaving? Are you feeling unwell? Seeing Cheng Zhendong suddenly froze in place, Zhao Liren felt a bit confused. It's okay, I just feel a bit guilty about bothering you all again. So it's just an exaggeration. Minister Li said in front of me that the technologies you provided have advanced the modernization process of the country's military industry and agriculture by at least 30 years. However, I can't understand why you refuse to work at the National Research Institute, Zhendong. Not only Zhao Liren, but others also don't understand. Minister Li did not invite anyone even after 3 visits to the thatched cottage. In the end, it was just a false job as a technical consultant at the Red Star Rolling Mill. This status and treatment are not just a small difference. Cheng Zhendong's actions naturally have his own concerns. The remuneration of the Research Institute is indeed good, but the technologies he provides to the country are all provided by the system. He is completely clueless about relevant theoretical knowledge. Having more contact with those researchers, it's inevitable to expose the truth. This is why I have repeatedly refused the good intentions of my superiors. Cheng Zhendong doesn't want to owe others any favors. It used to be like this, and now it's the same. Although this judgment was not as satisfactory as his intention, it also caused a lot of trouble for many people. Thinking of this, Cheng Zhendong looked at Zhao Liren. I don't have much ink in my stomach. Isn't going to the Research Institute just to add trouble? By the way, Zhao, if you have time, you can tell Minister Li that I have recently come up with a new thing. If he is interested, he can come to me anytime. Chapter 9. Merit in Contemporary Times. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Upon hearing these words, Zhao Liren's eyes lit up instantly. Cheng Zhendong's products must be exquisite. Technology involves multiple key and difficult fields such as military, industry, and agriculture. Zhao Liren is also unclear about his specific contributions. I only know that every time Cheng Zhendong has new research and development achievements, it will attract top experts from various industries. Xiaolin, please contact Minister Li immediately. Don't bother, I'm here. As he spoke, an old man in Zhongshan suit, aged around 60, with a thin figure, walked over with a pace. Seeing the person coming, the leaders of the prison quickly welcomed them. Minister Li, I haven't even had time to inform you yet. Why did you come first? Professor Xiaocheng is revisiting his old place, so I have no time to come and take a look. The person's name is Li Qiming, and Cheng Zhendong only knows that he is a big leader. It is not very clear how big he is. There is a hint of mockery in this statement. Li Qiming originally thought that Cheng Zhendong was just a calm and independent genius, but he didn't expect a hammer to hit his head as soon as he left. This incident has completely changed his cognition. After 2 years in prison, he greeted everyone with a smiling face. Unexpectedly, such a gentle person would also have a day of violence and injury. But having a temper is a good thing. I'm afraid Cheng Zhendong is really a robot without any emotions, which would be difficult to contact. Minister Li, please don't make fun of me. I'm already very sorry for causing so much trouble to you. Upon hearing this, Li Qiming restrained his smile and his expression became somewhat solemn. You're just hitting me in the face. Cheng Zhendong has made so many contributions to the country, but they have not given the necessary care and have even been bullied by some unscrupulous people. Ultimately, this is his dereliction of duty. Zhao Liren saw that the atmosphere was not quite right and quickly came out to warm up. Hey, things have already happened. Minister Li, you don't have to blame yourself too much. By the way, Professor Xiaocheng, didn't you say you wanted to discuss new technologies with Minister Li? Are there new research and development achievements? Upon hearing these words, Li Qiming couldn't help but blame himself and quickly asked, what technology? Is this military, industrial, or agricultural? It should be considered military. After receiving a positive response, Li Qiming couldn't contain his excitement. Nowadays, the country is facing internal and external troubles. Although the food issue is imminent, there are foreign powers using force to intimidate and Maoxiong using treacherous technology to block it. International relations are exceptionally tense. The development of a country needs to be built on a solid military foundation. Now they are too short of advanced military technology. Zhao Liren understood that the next conversation between the two involved the highest level of military secrets. So he took a group of idle people out of the reception room. Watching them leave, Li Qiming couldn't wait to ask about Cheng Zhendong's latest scientific research achievements. Professor Xiaocheng, what new technology have you developed? I've said it many times, you call me Zhendong, but it's not really something new. I remember giving you a blueprint for a new engine last year, and I spent another year improving the engine. I changed the engine from a twin engine to a single engine, and used a front canard wing layout for aerodynamics. The maximum speed should be 2.4 Mach. I'll give you the detailed blueprint after I finish it. Cheng Zhendong casually gave an excuse for the origin of this technology. I picked out the key parts and explained them to Li Qiming again. The latter is also an expert in this area. Can roughly determine the feasibility of this technology. The new fighter jet developed last year has entered the test flight stage. I didn't expect 9 to be released so soon. Cheng Zhendong's efforts in the past 2 years have benefited both the present and the future. Seeing Li Qiming's strange gaze at him, Cheng Zhendong felt uneasy in his heart. Hurry up and stop. Alright, Minister Li, you're also a big person. how could your eyes be so numb? I don't like to owe people favors the most. If you help me, it's just my return. Upon hearing this, Li Qiming's expression became complicated. This return gift is too heavy. If we really want to calculate every detail, then the gratitude they owe to Cheng Zhendong may not be fully repaid in their lifetime. Although human relationships cannot be repaid, they cannot truly make these people who have made contributions to the country feel cold-hearted. Professor Xiaocheng, don't worry, your business will be a matter of the country in the future. I assure you that this kind of injustice will not make you suffer again. You have dinner first, and I will gather Professor Yang and his team to discuss the feasibility of developing the 9 series now. After speaking, Li Qiming got up and left the reception room. When Zhao Liren saw someone come out, his expression was unusually solemn, and he quickly ran to greet them. Let this person inside be worshipped as an ancestor, and any reasonable demands must be unconditionally met. Additionally, if Professor Xiaocheng is missing a single strand of hair, I'll ask you. Upon hearing this, Zhao Liren felt a sudden surge in his heart and guessed that Cheng Zhendong had once again made great contributions. The gap between people is sometimes greater than that between humans and pigs. At the age of 22, others are still worrying about tomorrow's meal, while Cheng Zhendong is already able to influence the progress of the country. Without much time to think, Zhao Liren quickly nodded and said yes. Li Qiming didn't say anything more and hurriedly left Gongdalan prison after giving an explanation. After submitting the drawings, Cheng Zhendong returned to his previous days of checking in and signing in. However, for 2 consecutive weeks, there was nothing good besides master carpentry craftsmanship. The layout of the single room has not changed, but the food seems to have risen to a higher level. Knowing that Li Qiming had bought him the benefits, Cheng Zhendong shamelessly accepted them. However, soon after, a piece of news brought by Zhao Liren made Cheng Zhendong dumbfounded. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. Chapter 10. Self-cultivation of White Lotus. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Amnesty. What a joke. Cheng Zhendong didn't see any emotional ups and downs when he beat up silly Zhu, but when he heard that the authorities wanted to reduce his sentence again, he suddenly looked confused. He spent so much effort trying to secure a 3-month sentence. I've only been living for less than a week, and I have to kick him out again. Have you ever thought about replacing the foolish pillar who lost half of his life? Who should he reason with? Zhao Liren, however, did not notice anything unusual in Cheng Zhendong's words and continued to smile, saying, "When did you see me joking with you? Minister Li said that you have made significant contributions this time and have specially obtained a pardon for you. The approval process is currently underway, and the documents are estimated to be ready in 2 days. Minister Li even asked me to relay a sentence to you. The country will not let any meritorious person feel cold-hearted. Cheng Zhendong. I have never been so speechless in my life. I just wanted to repay my personal feelings, but I didn't want to disrupt my check.In plan. Lao Zhao, there's really no need. You go talk to Minister Li and tell him that I live here quite well. The 3-month sentence has already caused many people outside to complain. How long has it been since I came in? I've received a pardon again. If the people start to stir up trouble, you will inevitably bear a reputation for favoritism. I really have a guilty conscience. Hey, Zhendong, your words are too far-fetched. Zhao Liren waved his hand and said, Minister Li knows you don't want to trouble him, but you deserve all of this. Also, the police station is restarting the investigation of the case 2 years ago, and you will definitely not be unjustly accused. By the way, Minister Li also said that the reason why your achievements were not exposed is also out of protection for you. I hope you can understand, but the truth will come to light someday. Cheng Zhendong naturally understands this. If someone with malicious intentions finds out about his existence, there will definitely be a lot of trouble in the future. He doesn't have absolute self-protection ability yet. This is also one of the most important reasons why Cheng Zhendong tried his best to stay in prison and sign in. However, Li Qiming was determined to save himself, even willing to rely on the credibility of the judicial department. Cheng Zhendong wanted to cry without tears. If he really wants to stay in prison and not leave, it's not impossible, but it's inevitable to arouse suspicion from some people. In order to reduce these unnecessary troubles, Cheng Zhendong was really forced to follow Li Qiming's arrangements. The upper authorities attach great importance to this matter. Li Qiming personally greeted and the approval process was quickly completed. 2 days later, the amnesty document for Cheng Zhendong came down. It only took him 10 days to return to prison after he committed a crime. Zhao Liren personally sent the person out again. It's drizzling outside, foggy. Just like Cheng Zhendong's current mood. Before leaving, Zhao Liren did not forget to instruct. Zhendong, after going out, live a good life. Don't be impulsive like before. It's not worth getting involved in a group of petty people. If you encounter any trouble, feel free to come to me anytime. Got it. Watching Cheng Zhendong leave, Zhao Liren felt relieved. The stone hanging in my heart finally fell down. There's no way, although Cheng Zhendong's senses are good, they have to be on tenterhooks when this master is in prison for a day. Whenever there is a slight mistake, Li Qiming will not spare him lightly. Cheng Zhendong goes wherever he likes, as long as he doesn't come back. On the other side. After resting in the hospital for nearly 10 days, Silly Zhu finally got down to the ground. But my body is not very healthy yet. His face was wrapped in thick bandages. The plaster on the right hand was not removed either. The hospitalization fee is really too expensive. Under normal circumstances, medical expenses can be reimbursed as long as one has a city household registration and works in a state-owned enterprise factory. This kind of welfare benefits cannot be popularized even in later generations. So those beautiful women in rural areas all want to marry into the city. The charge given by the problem police station is fighting, and Silly Zhu also bears the main responsibility for this conflict. Not within the medical coverage of the factory. During this period, including surgery and medical hospitalization expenses, it cost no less than 200 yuan. Silly Zhu is an 8th-level cook at a steel rolling mill, earning a salary of 32.5 yuan. I have also saved some money in the past 2 years, but I can't afford such extravagance. He simply dragged his sick body back to the courtyard. After spending so much money, I have to go to prison to serve my sentence in half a month. Thinking of his own experience, Silly Zhu felt extremely depressed in his heart. During this period, Yi Zhonghai has frequently appealed to the county committee. However, the results given are all the same, the facts of the crime are clear, the sentencing is reasonable, and the original verdict is upheld. Yi Zhonghai also considered inciting the masses to exert pressure on the county committee, and he was not clean about the problem. If we make a big fuss and turn around to start a fire, there's really no place to reason. In the end, there was no other choice but to admit defeat. If it weren't for being unable to defeat that Cheng Zhendong, when he recovers from his injuries, he would retaliate and go back. The most chilling thing for Silly Zhu is that he hasn't seen Qin Huairu go to see him even after being in the hospital for so long. I fell into this field all to stand out for her 2 women. Lying in bed looking at the empty roof, Silly Zhu made up his mind to draw a clear line with Qin Huairu in the future. Just as I was thinking about it, a familiar shout suddenly came from outside the door. Are you at home, silly column? I heard that you are back, and I stewed a bowl of egg vegetable soup for you. Qin Jie. Upon hearing the sound, Silly Zhu was taken aback for a moment. His previous thoughts were instantly forgotten by him. Unable to wait to get out of bed, I accidentally bumped into my disabled right arm. The pain made him take a deep breath of air. Qin Jie, I'm here. Wait a moment. The rain is coming, Qin Jie. Hurry up and open the door for Qin Jie. Rainwater is boiling hot water in the kitchen. Upon hearing the commotion, I reluctantly opened the door for Qin Huairu. Just kept muttering something in my mouth. Now that you know how to be attentive, why did you go so early? Silly Zhu has become like this. Although the main culprit is Cheng Zhendong, Qin Huairu cannot escape the connection. The rain's dissatisfaction with her is understandable. Seeing this girl unwilling to look at her directly now, Qin Huairu's smile stiffened. But it quickly adjusted. Rain, I heard from an aunt that your brother is back, and I made him a bowl of egg vegetable soup. Rainwater didn't show any affectation and reached out to pick up the bowl. I'll take the soup. Qin, please go back first. My brother's body and bones are not good yet, and the doctor said he needs more rest. Seeing that the rain had not given her a good face, Qin Huairu looked aggrieved again. Then he choked up and said, Rainwater, I know you blame me. I also have a responsibility for how silly Zhu has become. But I really didn't know Cheng Zhendong would take such a heavy blow. These days, I have been wanting to go to the hospital to see silly Zhu, but you also know what kind of person my mother.In.Law is. As a woman, I am helpless in the 49 cities, and there is nothing I can do. Speaking, Qin Huairu wiped away 2 lines of clear tears from her face. I don't want you to forgive me when I say this. I'm relieved to know that stupid is not a big problem. Remember to ask your brother to drink egg vegetable soup, and I'll go back first. After saying these words, Qin Huairu turned her head and left. Seeing her posture, the resentment in Rainwater's heart instantly dissipated in half. Upon careful consideration, this matter was indeed initiated by our foolish brother, and it could not be attributed to Qin Huairu.